Hello, and welcome to Social Justice Saturdays with the Radical Social Worker. So since today is the very first video in this ongoing series, we're going to be talking about what exactly is social justice and why social workers, mental health providers, and other social service professionals should be aware and engaged in social justice issues. So what exactly is social justice? Well, it's the concept of fair and just relations between individuals and society. It's the idea of acting with equity, fairness, and dignity toward all humans. So when we're talking about social justice issues, we're dealing with things like poverty, racism, sexism, lack of access to housing, lack of access to care, those types of social issues. Those are social justice issues. And that's really just the tip of the iceberg as far as examples go. So why is this important to you as a social service professional or mental health provider? So let's talk about Bronfenbrenner's ecological systems theory. So if you're a social worker, I'm sure you've seen this image before. And most likely if you're in some other social service profession or even a mental health profession, you've seen something similar. But ecological systems theory depicts the interaction between individuals and the system around them. And it also describes how individuals can impact their community on up to the culture, and in turn how the culture and community impact the individual. It's really important to note that no one's systems look the same as any other person's. So we have this grand word called intersectionality, right? And it's the encompassing of all of our identifying features, our race, our education level, our sexuality, ability, age, gender, class, language, culture, where we're born, where we live. All of those things create a very unique system for each individual person. And it also means that societal issues are going to impact everyone differently because every person has different intersectionalities about who they are. So can we provide quality services for an individual if we're ignoring social factors? So let's think about it. Let's say we have a 10-year-old Latino boy who is physically healthy. He lives in a stable, lower middle class home. His family is of mixed documentation status. His father works. His mother stays home with the younger sister. He performs well academically. He's lived in the same home, attended the same school since first grade. He plays on a youth soccer team, and he has several friends. But lately he's begun to exhibit nervous behavior and has been becoming avoidant of going to school and soccer practice. And he's had 2 panic attacks at school in the last week. So what could be going on in this child's life that could be contributing to these issues that are coming on all of a sudden? So this child doesn't appear to have anything going on immediately in his life. His family seems stable. Yes, they are a little bit on the lower side of middle class, but there doesn't seem to be any issues with the parent's job or ability to provide care or provide for the family. It also seems like the child has good peer relationships. So there doesn't seem to be anything in the child's immediate environment that could be causing such stress. So let's look a little bit outside of that environment then. What are some things that are happening socially right now in this country? There's a lot of things going on surrounding immigration. And what do we notice about this child is that he lives in a mixed documentation household. We've seen reports over the last few months about ICE raids in communities, about children going to school and then coming home and their parents are gone. So when we look at where this child is having some of these panic issues, it's happening at school. And the avoidant behavior is coming when he has to leave the home, leave his family, and go engage in social activity outside the home without his parents. So from what we know about what's happening in our social context with this child and the various groups that he belongs to, it's easy to see that this is a big societal issue that's impacting this child's individual life. So that's what I'm talking about when I'm talking about social justice and how it impacts the way you work with individuals in your practice. If you weren't aware at all about what's happening in the United States right now surrounding immigration and what's happening with the presence of ICE in communities, you wouldn't have any idea that that could be a factor in this child's life and could be causing this level of stress. And so you may be spending a lot of time looking at other factors that aren't problematic in the child's life. So as providers, it's really important that we be aware of what's happening socially around us. And that includes things like legislation, policies, social constructs, and being aware of the way that those things influence how we think as individuals and providers, and also how they impact our clients' lives. So one thing that's important to know about social justice is that, at least for social workers, it's part of our code of ethics. So it's important that we're honoring that as part of our practice. And if you don't feel like it's an area that you feel confident in, you're not alone. In fact, many people in social services and mental health feel very uncomfortable starting to get engaged in social issues. So I understand the anxiety around that, but please know that there are ways you can start getting involved and becoming more aware that may not be too far outside your comfort zone. So how do we take this information and help it move us into a more social justice minded practice? Well, the best thing that you can do, the easiest thing that you can do, is you can start to stay up on current events. And as you're doing that, you can think about the people and the populations you're working with and how those social issues may be impacting their lives, because that will impact how you work with them. And you may begin to find that as you're addressing some of those systemic issues, the interpersonal issues are improving. Another thing that you can do is you can start to think about ways that you can impact the systems around you in a positive way. So if we're going to have a social justice minded practice, that means we have to take some action. So getting into things like advocacy. So thinking about, well, my client keeps running into all of these issues at school. The school doesn't have good funding. I'm noticing this about a lot of schools in my community. What can I do? Because if we don't change that systemic issue, we're going to continue to have all these micro level issues with individuals. If you start becoming more aware of social issues and the ways in which they impact people's lives, you'll start to see it impact your practice. And when you begin to have that strong understanding of the ways in which systems impact people and ways in which you can impact those systems, it will help you become more confident in your ability to take action. Well, I hope you all enjoyed this video and that you learned something along the way. Please keep your eyes open for more videos in this series and other series as well. Thanks for watching and have a fantastic Saturday. Bye!